Once again, welcome. My name is Rosa Villegas. I'm one of the international advisors here at Pasadena City College. Welcome and thank you for being here. I'm joined today by my two colleagues. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kathy Chen. I am also an education advisor here at ISC. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Everyone, good afternoon. My name is Michael Jones. I'm the third educational advisor in our office at PCC. Welcome.
Okay, once again, welcome. Let's get started. So today's presentation is how can international students work, and you're gonna learn how to. And in today's agenda, we're gonna cover the benefits of employment, how to qualify for work, type of employment allowed for international students, as well as an explanation of each type of employment that international students are eligible to participate. So all of you may be thinking, so why should I work? What do I gain out of working if I want to focus on my studies? But there are great benefits of being employed. One of the benefits is that you're going to meet other students, faculty, and community members. You are also going to gain experience working in the US. You're going to have social and professional networking, meaning you're going to be meeting people, like I said earlier. For example, if you're a business major and maybe you find a job that is business related, then you're going to get to meet people in the field. So you can ask a lot of questions and see if that's something that you want to do long term. And also at the same time, you're building your resume. We know you have a lot of skills. Some of you may be thinking, but I have never worked. How can I create a resume? But you'll be surprised with all the skills and qualifications that you have, that you can actually create a very good resume that could potentially land you a job here on campus or outside of campus once you learn how to apply for off-campus jobs. Before I go on, I want to make sure that if any of you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and Michael and Kathy will let me know so that we can answer your questions during the presentation. Or we will also have time at the end to answer questions. So don't hesitate. If something is not clear, make sure you ask a question. You can raise your hand or type it in the chat for us. So how do you qualify for work? First and foremost, you must be in status and maintained all your F1 regulations. You must request work authorization or approval before starting to work. Remember, you're here with the student visa, so we want to make sure we help you protect your status, and we don't want you to work without an authorization. You must continue to maintain all F1 regulations after you're approved to work. So even though you get approval to work and you're doing your studies, make sure you continue to maintain the regulations. If something is not clear, make sure you talk to one of us and let us know so that we can help you make sure that you are following all the rules. And something that you have to remember is that each type of employment has a specific eligibility and requirements. So you'll learn later on throughout the presentation that there are different types of employment, and depending on the type of employment that you're interested in getting approval, you may have to submit different forms, and you may also have to have met different requirements. So we hope that with today's presentation, you get familiar with what those types of employments are and how you can get approval for them. So again, today is an overview of the types of employment that you as an F1 student can get. The one that most students, and it's easier to get approved, is on-campus employment. This means that you are eligible to work on campus here at PCC, basically right away when you first begin as an F1 student and you are here inside the US. I'm not sure if some of you are overseas, but if you are inside the US, then you'll learn that it's basically you're eligible to apply for on-campus employment. The other type of employment that you'll hear all of us talk about it is CPT. CPT is short for curricular practical training. Again, we're gonna tell you how to apply for it and what the requirements are. But when you get approved for CPT, you can actually do on and off campus employment. So you have your opportunities are greater because you can go outside PCC. The third type of employment that we're going to cover today is OPT. OPT is optional practical training. And again, this is somewhat similar to CPT, but you'll see the difference later on when we explain it. But this is a type of employment that you can also do on campus and off campus. So again, more opportunities for you as an international student to work in something related to your field. So now I'm gonna pass it on to Michael, and he's gonna be explaining in more detail what on-campus employment is. Take it on, Michael.
Thanks, Rosa, and thanks for that great introduction. So yes, I am going to talk about the first type of employment, on-campus employment. Next slide, Kathy. So what are the conditions for you to be eligible to work on campus? So on-campus employment is the most, I would say it's the simplest process out of all of these processes, and it's the most, there are the least barriers for eligibility compared to CPT and OPT. So in order to be eligible, you must be in valid F1 status. So that means you must be here in the US, you must have an active I-20, and you must be following the rules of your F1 status, i.e. making sure you're in 12 units, maintaining those 12 units. And if you have any questions about what being in valid F1 status is, you can always ask later on, or you can meet with one of us and we can explain more. You must also be enrolled full-time, like I mentioned in the first one. So that means you need to be enrolled in at least 12 units. Now, during fall and spring semesters, you can only work up to 20 hours per week. That's part-time. Now, during vacation sessions or school breaks, you can work full-time. So during the summer, you could work up to 40 hours a week. But this is, of course, the hours you get is at the discretion of your supervisor. So you can't work more than 20 hours, but just because you can work up to 20 hours, that doesn't mean that your supervisor will give you 20 hours here on campus. That's just one thing to know also. Next slide. So how do you apply? So the first step, I think, is actually maybe the most difficult step out of this whole process. So the first step is you have to find an on-campus job and receive the job offer letter. So that means that you need to go around on campus to the different departments, and you will have to find the job. You would have to find open jobs and then apply to them. Unfortunately, right now at PCC, there is not a central job postings board for on-campus jobs. So your best bet would be going in person to certain departments with your resume prepared and asking them if they have any job openings. Some departments that I know that hire our students are the Success Center Hub, which is on the 3rd floor of the D building, also the Math Success Center in the R building, the STEM Success Center in the Science Village, also the Writing Success Center in the C building, so all the tutoring centers. The campus police will hire cadets. You could also check the library, Pathway Center, the bookstore, and usually each year in the fall, we also will hire international students here in our office. Right now, unfortunately, all of our positions are filled, but you can check back later in the year to see if we have any openings. It never hurts to stop by and give us your resume so it's ready in case we have an opening. Now, after you secure the job, after you've gone and done all that process of finding the job, interviewing, and them offering it to you, then you will need to submit a Social Security letter request, or just on our website, it's called the letter request. You will fill that out, and then you will email that with a copy of your job offer letter to your advisor. Hopefully you know who your advisor is. At the end, we'll show you how we break it down, and we'll also have our contact information. After that, the advisor will process the request, and then we will give you a letter from our office supporting you to get a Social Security number. You will take that and your visa documents and the job offer letter, and we have a list of documents you would need to take with you to the Social Security office, and we'll share that with you. But you would call the Social Security office in your city, the one nearest to you, and you will ask them how to schedule an appointment. It depends on the office, but once you call, then they should be able to give you the next steps you need to take to get your Social Security number. After you receive your Social Security number, then you can bring all your documents to PCC's Human Resources Department, and then you will complete the required paperwork so you can begin working. And that's the easy process. Now, how do you search for on-campus jobs? Sorry, I got into this a little bit. The first step you can do is create a resume. And I know not everywhere in the world around the globe has the same type of format for resumes. Some people might be more used to a CV. But you can always go to our Career Center in the IT building, IT 200, the Freeman Center, and they have people there, and their job is just to help you with your resume and help you with making it perfect so that you will get hired. And so I highly recommend going to the Freeman Center. They're really great. As I mentioned earlier, also, it's good to contact different departments on campus. Also, you can follow the different departments on social media. They usually post when they're hiring on social media. And then also we have a newsletter. And if we hear about job postings, we make sure to include it in the newsletter. So make sure to read our newsletter, and it's usually near the bottom. So read through everything, and then you'll see the good stuff at the bottom if you want a job. Now, unfortunately, you might see this thing in the middle. You aren't eligible for work study positions, and that's because work study is part of US federal financial aid. As international students, you're not eligible for federal financial aid. So unfortunately, you can't do work study jobs, but plenty of our students do get hired on campus, so don't get too discouraged. And with this, I believe I am going to pass it off to Kathy to talk about CPT.
Thank you, Michael. That was a good overview of on-campus employment. Here, I will talk about CPT, which stands for Curricular Practical Training. CPT is another type of employment that our international students can engage in. CPT is a little bit more lengthy than the on-campus employment, but there are similarities. There are also differences. So let's talk about what is CPT. CPT is training opportunity for F1 international students. It's basically a hands-on training for you that you can find a job that's related to your major. You get an internship, whether it's paid or not paid. right? That work or that job that you want to engage in, or the employer you want to work for, will be something that is related to your study. And that's one of the requirements, as you can see in point number 2. The job that you are going to get or want to get must be related to your field of study or your major. For example, if you are a nursing major, you can work at a hospital, right? But if your major is nursing, you cannot be a cashier at a mall. It doesn't make sense, right? It has nothing to do with your major. But if you're an accountant, perhaps working as a cashier could justify the reason that you're working as a cashier, right? Number 3, so the CPT is actually authorized by your assigned advisor, either Michael, Rosa, or myself. We are able to approve you for a CPT. That's an additional step than on-campus employment. Number 4 is CPT can be both part-time or full-time. Remember, if you do full-time, that will eat up your time when you do OPT. So have to be really careful about that. If you want to know more details, please consult with one of us. CPT can also be paid or unpaid. So what are the requirements? Requirements are similar with all types of employment. And one of them is you must have been enrolled at an approved school on a full-time basis for at least one full academic year. That means you have to have entered the US, activated your I-20, and studied for at least one academic year, meaning one semester of spring plus one semester of fall in order to qualify for CPT. This is an additional requirement than on campus. So CPT, as I mentioned earlier, if you do 20 hours or more, that's considered full-time. And full-time will have an effect on your future OPT time if you choose to apply for OPT. Now for CPT, you must have an offer letter from your employer before applying. So you have to have a job already secured in order to apply for this. And you also must enroll in an internship class or a major class that requires field work. So here's how to apply. First, same as on-campus employment, you have to find a job and receive a job offer letter from the office, the employer, or the department that is going to hire you. Next, you'll enroll in an internship class or a major class that requires field work. After that, please meet with our international academic counselor for CPT recommendation. They will have to sign a form for you. Then after you have met with our academic counselor, you will submit that signed form and your job offer letter to one of us. Finally, you will wait for a decision from us. If approved, you can begin your work. And again, so this CPT is only in quick overview. If you want more detail on exactly what CPT is, what are the really detailed things that you need to do, please join us this Thursday at 12. We have our CPT workshop, and we'll be more glad to answer all your questions. And from that, Ms. Rosa, take it away with OPT.
Hi, it's me again. So I know we're giving you a lot of information today, but again, think about it as this being an overview. Like Kathy said, she covers CPT, and the detailed presentation regarding CPT will be this Thursday at 12, same time. So we hope that you can join us to learn more CPT details. But now I'm gonna explain to you the overview of OPT, which means optional practical training. Again, a different type of employment that you are all eligible to participate. So you'll be thinking, well, what is CPT? What's OPT? What's the difference? So today I'm just letting you know a little bit about OPT, but we will have a workshop about OPT next week on Tuesday that we hope that all of you can join us. So OPT, it's very similar to CPT. It's a temporary training opportunity for F1 students. Same thing, the job that you get while you're approved for OPT must be directly related to your field of study. Here at PCC, for example, if I have students who are in the paralegal program, their classes require students to do field work. So you can do it during your studies under CPT, or when you graduate, you can apply for OPT and work as a paralegal, because that's your major, that's your field of study. OPT is available to international students before you graduate and during your studies here at PCC. So pre-completion OPT means you are going to be working, you're applying for OPT while you're still enrolled for classes. Post-completion OPT means that you already earn your associate degree and you apply for OPT to only work. So that's the difference. Pre-completion OPT, you can be working part-time, but at the same time enroll full-time in your classes. So if you're a overachiever student that wants to work and gain experience, you can apply for pre-completion OPT and still enroll to get your associate degree. Or if you just want to focus on getting your degree first, you can wait to apply for OPT after, and that will be post-completion OPT. Typically, most of our students here do post-completion OPT, but again, this is an option, an opportunity that you have. So if you consider it, you can always schedule a meeting with us to discuss how to apply for the pre-completion OPT, or if you meet the requirements for it. So the big difference between CPT and OPT is that although all of us here in the office can help you through the process of applying for OPT, we do not give you the final approval. The approval comes from the office called USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So we will help you through the process, but we don't make the decision to approve or deny the application. So what are the OPT requirements? You'll see they may be a little similar. Some of them may be a little different. First, you must have been enrolled in an approved school on a full-time basis for one full academic year. One academic year counts the two full semesters, fall or spring, or if you start with us in spring, then it'll be spring and fall. So 2 full semesters. And when we say approved school, that means that the school you attended was approved by the government to issue and register international students. If you attended a language school, although it is approved to register international students, the 1 year begins counting when you attend academic program, not the language program. Post-completion OPT, as I explained a little bit earlier, you must earn the associate degree to qualify. So in order for you to know if you're eligible to earn your associate degree, you're going to be talking with one of our academic counselors that is going to help you review all of your classes and review that you meet the graduation requirements and help you apply for graduation. So that's a very important piece. Again, our office, one of us, the advisors, will make the recommendation and we'll help you put together the application. But then you will submit it to USCIS, who will then process your application and then make the decision to approve the OPT and give you your work permit. When you apply for OPT, something that you will need to keep in mind is that OPT is authorized for 1 year at each educational level. For example, what do you mean by that? What I mean is we are a community college. We offer an associate degree. So when you finish your associate degree, you can apply for post-completion OPT, work up to a year. Then you're going to transfer to the university to earn your bachelor degree. And then you will be eligible again to apply for OPT for another year. So as you move up in levels, you can continue applying for 1 year OPT. Post-completion OPT must be full-time because remember, you already finished your program, you earned your degree, so now you're going to be working full-time. So here in the US, again, sometimes we may be using terms that you're not familiar with them, so make sure you ask us. But full-time is when you work 20 hours or more per week. And the good thing about OPT is that if the company that you're working for wants to give you 60 hours per week, you can work up to 60 hours. There is no maximum. So you can work as much as you want to. What we recommend here in the office is to always file early. Again, we will give you the details of the processing time, but because again, it's not approved by our office, it's approved by a government office, you want to take into account the time that the office will need to process and approve your OPT application. So always file early. And how do you apply for OPT? So again, we're referring to post-completion OPT because most of our students apply for post-completion, but remember that the pre-completion OPT option is available, so make sure you talk to us about it as well. So the first step that you're gonna take is when you think you are ready to graduate, or even before, like right now, you can schedule a meeting with one of our counselors, see how far you are, how much more time do you need to graduate, so you can start thinking which semester you're going to be applying for OPT. So when you meet with the counselor, make sure you file for graduation or plan ahead to see when will you be graduating. And if the counselor says, for example, hey, Brian, you're graduating this fall, then you're gonna file for graduation. And if you're considering applying for OPT, then the counselor can give you the OPT recommendation form and sign it for you. The next step, since you know you're gonna graduate and earn your degree, then you're gonna collect all the required documents. And in the OPT workshop, we'll give you the list of required documents to apply for OPT. Because it's not just the recommendation or file for graduation, but there are additional forms. When you have collected all your forms and you are almost ready to apply, we recommend that you talk to one of us, make sure that you meet the eligibility, and make sure that you will have the required documents to apply. Then we're going to recommend you to apply on the USCIS website, because now the office is accepting online applications, which we strongly encourage students to do. You still have the option to mail the application, but we strongly recommend to do the online application. after you file your application is just kind of sitting around and waiting. USCIS may take 3 to 4 months to process, sometimes even longer. So that's something that is not something that you can control. So we're just gonna wait until they make a decision. And now the three of us will ask questions and we're gonna give you answers. So how you can sort of have a comparison between CPT and OPT.
Yeah, so the first question I have for you, Kathy and Rosa, is do you need to secure a job before applying for CPT or OPT?
For CPT, yes, that is a requirement.
So for OPT, you do not need to secure a job. You can apply as long as you're getting your associate degree, you're earning a degree if it's post-completion OPT, and you have filed for your graduation. So no job required to apply.
Great. Now, how long does it take to get approved to work?
For CPT, like all of our student requests, we do ask you to allow us 10 business days to process them. However, if you already have all the documents, we may take less than 10 business days, sometimes even within 1 week, right? 5 business days, we are able to give you a decision. So it's the back and forth of missing documents, you gotta do this, you have to submit that, right? That takes away the time. So if you have all your documents prepared, the process quite quick.
And for OPT, as I mentioned earlier, we strongly recommend that students file as early as possible, and there are deadlines as to when you can apply, but we recommend to file early because USCIS may take 3 to 5 months to process and give a response and a work permit to students. So again, if you consider an OPT, depending on the semester that you plan to graduate, come and see us and say, hey, Rosa, Michael, Kathy, I'm interested in applying for OPT. I think I'm gonna graduate in spring. When should I start preparing? And we will provide you the timeline when we think it's the best time to apply. And again, the earlier, the better, so that you can start preparing your documents and getting everything put together for your application.
Great. Is there an application fee to apply?
This is a short answer, no. CPT does not have an application fee.
Unfortunately, I have to be giving you bad news. For OPT, you do have to pay an application fee. It does not come to the school, it goes to USCIS, and currently the application fee is $410. But again, keep in mind, if once you get approved and you get your work permit, you can work for up to a year and make as much money as you want.
Awesome. Now, who authorizes the employment for each of these types?
So for CPT is your advisor, either Michael, Rosa, or myself. We are the ones who will give you a decision on CPT.
For OPT, as I mentioned earlier, we will help you with the process. We'll help you put together your application. We will issue the I-20 recommending you for OPT, but we don't make the decision. The decision will be made by USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. And once approved, they will give you the work permit that allows international students to legally work in the US with your student visa.
Okay, 2 more questions. How many hours per week can I work?
We recommend part-time, which is 20 hours or less per week, because if you do 20 hours or more, that's considered full-time, and full-time takes away from your OPT time later on if you do OPT. So we recommend 20 hours or less per week.
And for OPT, if you're applying for post-completion OPT, the requirement is that you work full-time, which is 20 hours or more. Typically, most companies will say, we give you full-time and they'll give 40 hours. And that's why we put 40 hours. But as long as you work 20 hours or more, that's considered full-time. And there is no maximum of hours. And you can have multiple companies. So you can do, again, as long as you're doing more than 20 hours, you're fulfilling the OPT requirement. If you're applying for pre-completion OPT, it will be same as CPT. Part-time will be the maximum 20 hours per week during the fall and spring semesters.
Okay, last question. How is there like a maximum duration that I can use one of these forms of employment?
For CPT, no, there's no maximum. However, CPT must be approved each semester. So say you applied for CPT employment for fall, this semester, 2021. And you say, hey, Ms. Kathy, Ms. Rosa, or Mr. Michael, I would like to do it again for next semester, spring 2022. Then that means you will have to go through the CPT process again and get approval for spring 2022. So each semester, it must be a new approval.
And for OPT, you have up to 12 months, a year, that you can apply for post-completion OPT. And remember, the good thing about OPT is that you can continue applying as you earn your next degree level. So AA, OPT, BA, OPT, and depending on your major at the university level, you may be able and eligible to extend for a little bit more than 12 months if you're in a STEM-related major. But that applies only at the higher level, bachelor or higher. But at least here at the community college, at the associate level, you get the 12 months. So that's why it's important that you apply early to maximize the amount of time that you can work. So hopefully these overview of questions help you understand a little bit better the types of employment. But now Michael will explain some of the terms that we have been using so that it helps you clarify some of the questions you may have. Michael?
Yes. And we do have a question in the chat, Brian. We see your question and we will get to it really quickly during our Q&A. So just some terms that might be helpful. So you'll see DSO a lot. That stands for Designated School Official. And the DSOs at our school are Kathy, Rosa, and me, and our director, Olivia. So if you ever need a DSO, you can always start at your assigned advisor here. Now, also, you might hear USCIS, that stands for the United States Citizen and Immigration Services. That is the department that approves you to work. There's also the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS for short. Also, you might hear EAD card, and that stands for Employment Authorization Document. If you do OPT, you will get an EAD card. SCVP stands for Student and Exchange Visitor Program, and that is who oversees your I-20. And it's part of, I believe, DHS. CVIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information Services, and CVIS is the database that we keep your I-20 information in. Form I-20, I think you all should know what that is. That's the 3-page document that you need to apply for your F1 visa. Awesome. Now you all are pros. Here are some student resource pages. Like I mentioned earlier, the Career Center is a great place to start if you want to work. So we'll send out the PowerPoint later so you can click on these links. The Career Center every week has lots and lots of really great career-focused workshops. So you can also click on that link there and you can find some events that would align with your career goals. Study in the States is a very accessible website run by DHS. And so DHS is going to basically Study in the States. They have like accessible and very easy to understand blogs. So if you want to learn more about employment and these different types of employment, Study in the States is also a really great place to look. For more information on USCIS, we have the link there. And then of course, one of the most helpful links is our forms link, which you will find all the forms you need to apply if you want to work on campus. Next slide. Now, as I mentioned, and we all mentioned, we are the 3 advisors here on campus. If you're wondering who is your advisor, Rosa's last name, she advises last names A through J. So if your family name or your last name starts with the letters A through J, Rosa is your advisor. I am doing last names K through S. So if your last name falls in that, then you will be in there. And then for Kathy, she does last names T through Z. So go ahead and you can take down our email or our phone number. And if you ever want to contact us, you can do so. We also have our link to make an appointment, which will be really helpful if you want to go ahead and meet to talk about more of this employment. Next slide. If you want to contact our office, here's our contact information. We're located in the D building, floor 2, and room 204. And you should check out our website. We just redid some of the main pages. It looks really cool. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. We will be sharing out the recording in the next few days. So if you missed it, you will be getting an email to your email with a link to the recording, and we'll also include the slides. Now, we do have one question in the chat, and if you have any other questions, you can always unmute yourself or put them in the chat. But I'll go ahead and ask this question to Kathy since she shared about CPT. Does CPT require SSN?
Thank you, Brian, for the question. Yes, CPT, on-campus employment, OPT, any type of job will require a social security number. So the answer to your question is yes, you will need to have a social security number before you are allowed to work.
And just to add, remember when you submit in your request to get approved for the type of employment, if it's going to be paid, when we approve the request, we're going to issue the letter so that students can apply for the social security number. So it's kind of attached to your approval. If you're interested and you never had a social security number issued to you, then we will help you with the process as well.
Do we have any other questions? Feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself and speak up.
While you think of your questions, remember we have a workshop regarding CPT or about OPT this Thursday, 12 to 1. You probably saw that flyer. If you register for this workshop, you saw the other 2 workshops. So this Thursday, 12 to 1, we have CPT. And next Tuesday, we have OPT. So in those workshops, we're going to cover more details on the process to apply for those types of employment.
So again, we will be sharing this PowerPoint with you guys in a PDF format, and all the resource links and our appointment links will be clickable. That means you click on that link and it will take you directly to that page you're looking for. So we will be sharing that in the next few days.
Well, if no one has any other questions they'd like to ask now, we can go ahead and wrap up and maybe finish the recording. And then if you feel shy, you can go ahead and ask your question or you can always email us. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for watching if you're watching the recording.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Mhm.